So the Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Ben gloves are off, the face off. Very interesting stuff, to be honest. And I'm getting a good impression from Conor Ben. Much better than usual. Eubank's being his normal self, but I'm also noticing a lot of confidence from Eubank, of course. But I want to talk about Conor Ben more because it's a different kind of approach to this by him. And no matter what people saying, oh, Eubank has rattled him. Conor Ben admitted in the face-off that Chris Eubank got in his head first time round. Everyone knows that. It's clear to see he'd be very stupid to lie about it. So fair play to Conor Ben, but um, I'm getting a good impression from him this time. I do think he seems a lot more unbothered, and I think he seems a lot more used to the Chris Eubank Jr. antics this time round. No matter what people say, I'm not a fan of Conor Ben. I really want Eubank to win the rematch, just like I really wanted him to win the first fight. But as being non-biased here, I think Conor Ben seems in a good mental place going into this fight. I think he seems in a really good mental place, and I think, that I'm not really seeing the same anger from him. I mean, look, in the face off, of course, Eubank Jr. was irritating him kind of, but Conor Ben was good at keeping his cool, kind of joking around with Chris Eubank Jr. a bit more this time round and not getting all angry about everything. And look, it might be something that's, just for show, but just in general, well, it's not even in that face off, just generally in the build up with how we're seeing Conor Ben. I think that loss kind of lit a silent fire in Conor Ben. And I do like what I'm seeing from him because a lot of people who lose the first fight, they you look at Tyson Fury after his loss to Usyk. He's trying to act as angry as possible, saying, "Oh, all I've got is damage on my mind." But with Conor Ben, it's different. Like he's much calmer. I just feel like he's not faking anything this time around. Conor Ben. I'm not saying he was originally, but what I mean is you look at what Fury was like in the build up to the Usyk fight, and I feel like there was a bit of an act there, from Tyson Fury trying to put on that angry act. With Conor Ben, he's always bloody angry, but this time I don't think it's an act he's putting on. I feel like we're seeing more of his a different kind of side to him, which he has got in him. We've seen it in the past. Um, when he was more on the come up to when he was you know getting big. That is when he did start getting angry, and that's when he really did start getting good. It was the roid rage that kind of popped out of him. But I think now this is what he needs to be like, or even if he is faking it, I think it's good for himself to convince himself that this is the kind of mindset that he's going into the fight with because it will help. I really do believe it will help on fight night. And I think going into the first fight, he didn't respect Chris Eubank Jr. at all. He thought he'd be a walkover. And, he's admitted it himself. He thought he'd win in 3 rounds. He was surprised with how good Eubank was. Same for with what Eubank thought about Ben, but we're talking about Ben here. And he was angry about the egg smash, all that, Eubank Jr. and everyone, to be honest, all the fans, all of us fans going on about the failed drug tests. And, you know, Conor Benn's a drug cheat, we all know that. And I think you can't forgive anyone for failing drug tests. But I think Conor Ben, after that last fight, gained Chris Eubank Jr.'s respect. And I feel like he won a lot of people over that night, even in his defeat. And I feel like that has kind of affected his mentality and made it good. It made it much better. He was way too angry last time, way too emotional, and we could tell by how he was. That was how he was fighting as well because he was swinging for the heavens all night. And we're seeing more composed in the build up. If I think if he's mentally thinking he's more composed, not letting the antics get to him, they probably are kind of getting to him. I think that was clear to, kind of clear to see, but it wasn't giving Eubank the reaction you would have wanted still, but again, probably still irritated by them. But and for someone like him, it's gonna be hard not to be. But the fact he is able to stay more composed, or mentally, try and mentally think, get that in his mind to stay more composed and more calm, it's gonna help when the fight comes around. It is. And I think it could really help him pick his power shots better, because last time, he was able to catch Eubank a lot, but it was with a lot of haymakers, a lot of wild swings. Not the timing wasn't really there. I feel like it can be better for him this time round in the rematch. The timing for Conor Benn will be much better, and I just really think that mentally, I feel like we are seeing a change from Conor Benn no matter what, and it's as I've been saying, it's going to be massive come fight night. It's going to be massive. Um, I think now he's got Eubank's respect and he respects Eubank. I think it's helped Conor Benn. I think that first fight has really helped Conor Benn pick up on things. I think it's really helped him, pick himself up a lot mentally as well. Conor Benn, I think, again, something like with a lot of other guys going to rematches, there's a lot of uncertainty there for them. I'm not, and I think it's very visible to see on a lot of people as well. A lot of loads of boxing fans say, but with Conor Benn, I don't think he's that emotionally invested here. In a bad way, in a good way, he's invested. And he's not. I don't get the impression that he's thinking, oh, what if this happens again, what if that happens again. I don't get that impression from him at all. I feel like his head is clear going into this rematch, and it's gonna make for a very interesting fight in my opinion. But yeah, Eubank's approach, same as normal, doing his usual thing. I can't wait for the rematch.